Thanks for staying with us. While the housing boom certainly has lots of upsides for North Carolina, there are also cautions for buyers and sellers that they should be aware of. Now I'm joined by Kim Dawson of Coldwell Banker, who has also served as the president of the North Carolina Association of Realtors in 2016. And in our Charlotte studio, Paul Durso of Durso Capital Management. Thanks both so much for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Yes. I'm going to start with you, Kim. You have been the past president of the Realtors Association, so let's do that big picture look. When you look at this housing market here in North Carolina, how long would you say it's been on the rise for?
Oh, yeah, probably really been the struggle in the last 3 years. Raleigh, Charlotte, the more rural areas are taking more time to catch up to speed, and we do still have some areas that are still struggling, that have not recovered from the recession. But Charlotte, even Wilmington is seeing a very positive sales, but definitely been crazy the last 2 years, and partly because of the low inventory that everybody's mentioned that we're struggling with.
Paul, when you look at these so-called hotter real estate markets, what do folks need to be aware of, both the buyers and the sellers?
Well, it really depends on what they're looking for. You know, they're moving to the area for a job. Are they going to be here long term? You know, might be advantageous for, depending on their time frame, to be in the area that they're coming in, whether it be Charlotte or Raleigh, just to rent for a little bit before they move. But there's quite a few things to look at depending on your situation.
So, Kim, are you seeing that there's folks who are in this market now? Are a lot of them first-time home buyers?
About 35% of the buyers are first time. Yep.
So what do the first-time home buyers need to be aware of as they're stepping in?
Well, the biggest part is, I mentioned, the low inventory. So when they find a home they like, they've got to be ready to pull the trigger. And we're seeing the majority of homes are selling 99% of the list price, more so over. So they've got to be willing to go above list price, put strong due diligence down. Those are the things that are winning the transactions. So but they don't have time to think. I mean, if you see a home you like, you've got to write that offer within a couple hours. Yep.
Paul, same question to you. If you're a first-time home buyer, what questions should somebody be asking before they even go out? Apparently, you're going to need to make a decision quick. So what should they be asking themselves before they buy a home for the first time?
Really, the biggest and most important is how much can you afford? And because of what she just said, it's going to be important that they probably go below what they can afford, knowing that they're going to have to go above the asking price of the home. So if they can afford, say, $200,000, they might have to look at a top range of $185,000, $190,000, knowing that they're probably going to have to bid $200,000 to get that house.
Paul, when you look at North Carolina and what we've done here as far as tax rates, with our unemployment rate here, are those the types of things that you would attribute a good housing market to? I mean, is this what encourages people to go out and open their wallets and invest in a home?
Well, there's a lot that can be into play when it comes to escalating house prices or somebody wanting to purchase a home. You know, because of the escalation of the home values right now, I believe that is prompting a lot of people to go buy a home, because they're seeing homes start at 180 and then within a few years they're now 220, and they feel like they're missing out. So it's almost the market is drawing them into buying a home. Even if they can't afford it, they don't want to miss out.
Well, that's true. So traditionally, should folks expect to see this housing market continue at this rate for some time now?
That's what the predictions are. There's at the National Association of Realtors, they've talked about they don't see improvement in the inventory. So this is going to continue to be a problem. Low inventory, multiple offers, which are going to push the prices up, and just an abundance of buyers who are just biting at the bit to buy a house. So predictions are we're going to see it at least another year. This is going to continue.
So realistically, you have somebody who comes into your office, wants to buy a home. What should they expect? Are they going to find that perfect home, or are they going to have to be willing to go out a little bit further, maybe from a downtown area? What are you telling folks when they're walking in right now to buy a home?
Well, the first thing is they've got to be pre-approved. before I even put them in a car, pre-approved, because we've got to be ready to pull the trigger. And with multiple offers, you've got to have your pre-approval letter. Then they make out their wish list. And of course, even the first-time home buyers, their wish list is huge. And it's got to be what's important to you. And it might be they have to move further out, or they have to give up the backyard if they want to be inside. Some are opting for a townhome versus a single-family home because of the price point. So you have to have a discussion as to what they're willing to give up and what's really important to them. And then what's available. Sometimes there's nothing available in their wish list, and then they've got to think outside the box. But most cases, everybody wants the move-in ready home. They don't want to do any work anymore.
No, I'm sure that they don't. Paul, realistically, when somebody is looking at their finances and determining if they're okay to go ahead and buy a home and not rent any longer, how much of their income, how much should they be actually spending so that it would be smart for them, so that they will have money in their bank account to do anything else?
So what is smart, or what do people typically do? So if you're going to be smart with your money, you're probably going to be in the 30 to 40% of your budget is attributed and focused towards, purchasing, renting a home or an apartment. Most people, they'll put 50 to 65% of their budget, depending on their needs or desires or wish list, towards a home, and that's where people get into trouble, and bubbles get formed because people are putting too much of their budget towards a home.
So do you have cautions for folks when, if somebody came to you and said, I'm thinking about buying or renting, do you have caution or words of advice for folks?
Well, again, that's really specific in the situation that they're in. If they just moved to the area and they're looking to find a place, there's so many intangibles like traffic patterns and the bubble. We tend to live within 5 miles of our home, and jumping into a home because you have to pull the trigger, you might be trapped there because of escalating prices. So that's a super big decision, and sometimes I might advise somebody, it takes 6 months, move into an apartment, get the lay of the land, understand traffic and areas before you make that big decision. It might not be the best financial decision they're going to make today or for the next 6 months or year, but long term, it'd probably save them a lot of aggravation, frustration, and potentially money long term.
Does that sound like good advice to you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I do agree. It's good if you don't know the area and you don't know what you want. Go ahead and make that commitment to rent, and then take the time to find the right thing. Yep.
Okay. Well, I'd like to thank you both so much for joining us, and I'd like to thank you for joining our conversation as we focus in on the big issues facing North Carolina. We'll see you back here next week for another edition of InFocus. Till then, have a great week.